Open your Bibles. That's how I usually start these messages. But I'm not sure where I'm going to go yet. This is going to be a spiritual warfare message of a different kind. This message will focus more on why some Christians experience spiritual warfare more than others. Unfortunately, there are a lot of Christians or believers who wrongly believe that for some reason, if they have a lot of faith, or if they're involved in a lot of activity in their church, that they will somehow not undergo suffering. They will not experience the severe tests. And even worse, they won't experience satanic attacks from Satan and his unseen evil minions and the seen. Well, I'm here to tell you tonight that is the furthest thing from the truth. If anything, the opposite is true. Start participating for the cause of Christ in your own life personally, and participating in a ministry that rightly divides the word and is serious about getting the message to anyone and everyone that needs it. I guarantee you, you're a target by these evil minions. I have preached on Job many, many years ago now. If you want to read, I don't think we have the video on it, but if you want to read that message, you just go to the ebook section of the website. It's in the Faith Pleases God series. I believe it's the first chapter, if my memory serves right. If it's not, it's in the Faith Pleases God volume. But when you look at the book of Job, especially the first chapter and the second chapter, and this is what gets to me every time, God actually asks Satan if he considered his servant Job. Why would God do such a thing? He's roaming around this world looking for opportunities to attack believers. Why would God instigate or encourage him any further? Why would God ask Satan if he would if he considered his servant Job? Why? Why would God bring to Job's attention? No, why would God bring to Satan's attention concerning Job? Job was a man that tried to do things to be right with God. As far as we know, around his time period, he was the greatest servant of God on this planet at that particular time. I encourage you to occasionally read Job chapter 1 and Job chapter 2. And obviously when you read the story, Job did consider. Satan did consider, and he had his eyes on Job, but Job had a hedge around him, God's protection, that didn't allow Satan to attack and try to destroy his life. And when you read the story, Satan knew exactly where Job was, but frustrated, obviously, that he couldn't do anything about it until God allowed him to do the dastardly deeds that he did, from losing sons and daughters, his wealth, even his wife turning on him, and then becoming very diseased and suffering through all of it. When Satan was allowed to attack Job, he sure let him have it. He threw everything at him. Why? Because he didn't like his relationship with God. Believe me, I have a bullseye, you have a bullseye, we all have a bullseye if you're participating in the cause of Christ. Satan doesn't like the standing you have with Christ and God the Father, and he doesn't like you sharing that with others. He doesn't like you participating with others that are spreading that good news message and everything that goes along with it. Satan knows your name. Those evil minions know your name. Just like Paul had their attention, the evil minions that is, not to mention the heavenlies, God the Father and Jesus Christ. But the focus in on what Satan is looking for, to see if he has any enemies that doesn't fulfill his purposes. Everything anti-God, everything that doesn't produce faith, everything that creates a sense of unbelief in a person. That's what he tries to develop, not the opposite. And when people come around like Paul, like you, like me, that are known in heaven, and make no doubt about it, I believe with all my heart and what I have studied in God's Word, that I am known in heaven, and so are you. And the more you do for the cause of Christ, the more you'll be known by Satan and his minions. You go to Acts chapter 19, verse 15. It reads, "And the evil spirit answered and said, Jesus I know, and Paul I know, but who are you?" Jesus I know, Paul I know, but who are ye? Who are ye? Jesus I know, Paul I know, Now put your name there. I'll put mine. Joe, I know. Peter, I know. Paul, I know. Joe, I know. And who are ye? You believe that? Absolutely. The last 15 years, we've been putting some black eyes on the devil and his minions. We have his attention. 1 Peter. Chapter 5, verse 8. Be sober, be vigilant. Vigilant there in the Greek is be on alert. Because your adversary, in the Greek, your opponent, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. He's looking what he considers troublemakers for what he's trying to accomplish. So in the devil and his evil minions' viewpoint, from their viewpoint, we're troublemakers. We're turning his world upside down. And he's looking. He's a roaring lion walking about, seeking whom he may devour. Whom resist steadfast, verse 9, in the faith, knowing that the same affliction are accomplished in you, in your brethren, that are ye in the world. What I read here in 1 Peter goes along with the Job narrative. When you read these passages, these scriptures, in regards to the satanic focus on Paul, on Job, on yourself, we come to the conclusion, the only way you can look at these verses is coming to the conclusion that the devil main focus is to distract, divert, disarm the servants of God. That's you and me again in the present, who are promoting what God wants on this earth. And that means you are a target. You are a target. See, when someone participates in the way you were called to participate, which the main focus is always bringing the gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ to the masses, guess what happens? Satan erupts with anger, but also fear against us, because he doesn't want to be thrown out another place. You heard me correctly. He doesn't want to be thrown out another place. If you heard me preach at all in the book of Revelation, where I already mentioned in the Last Day series, he's been kicked out of the heavenlies. This is all he has left. And he looks at anyone that's not been saved by the blood of Jesus Christ as his property. And he does not want that stolen from him, from his viewpoint. And if they are, guess what? He's thrown out of another place, which means that he no longer has control of their life. He's like the fact that he keeps getting kicked out of places. And it angers him. And when he sees people like us that are out there for the cause of Christ, he gets angry. And he fears us. Most of the Christian world always operating a fear of Satan. No. If our full armor of God is on, Satan's no match for us. That's a spiritually designed suit that's God provided for each individual that puts their trust and confidence in him. It doesn't mean he's going to stop. He's going to let up. It doesn't mean he's going to finally come to the decision to stop attacking you. No. It means the attacks and the confrontations in the seen and unseen world are going to intensify. I guarantee you, following the will of God, and I connected that with thelema, the Greek word for will, by stating it begins with denying yourself, take up the cross, and following Christ. You can't incorporate those three, forget about the will of God. But if you're following the will of God, I guarantee you'll have probably the most difficult tests, trials and tribulations, and resistance compared to some saints who are casual seekers of God, or Christians in name only. You think Satan is stupid? Do you think he's a dummy? Why should he waste time? Why should he attack a Christian or a believer who is doing nothing? A do-nothing Christian. Why should he spend any effort on do-nothing Christians? Unfortunately, they're already deceived and they don't even know it, into believing what they are doing somehow is effective, or their attitude is they just want to meet the bare minimum requirements so they could get in. They have no clue, folks. And the church world's full of people like that. No, Satan and his evil minions are going to focus on the most on people who are his biggest threats. People that are a threat to his desires. He's on the biggest power grab from God over the earth realm. It's been like that since day one, since Adam. He's on a power grab, taking anything he can away from God. We talk about people in politics these days, how this person just wants power, that person just wants power. Let me tell you, they have nothing compared to their desire for power on Satan. Let's not forget, God gave Adam a commission to rule over this whole earth. Go back to Genesis 1. Read it again. And that began the battle of the ages. Shortly after Genesis 1, the devil came on the scene. He convinced both Adam and Eve to disobey. And disobey God they did. And they abandoned their posts as God's keepers of this planet, vice regents over this whole earth. What do you think Satan has been doing since he gained that type of control, that type of power? He's protecting it. He's protecting the control that he has over this earthly realm that he stole, which subverted Adam. And he's used everything, Satan that is, including governments. Let's bring this to the present. Media, education systems, science, art. He's gaining control over all of it, my friend. And anyone, Christians that is, true believers, who tries to bring any type of, let's just call it God influence, the change of mind influence into this world, into these realms, are going to experience some of the greatest and highest level of satanic resistance. Without question. Anybody that teaches anything different sure doesn't teach you from God's Word. It doesn't say it's going to be easy. If anything, it's going to be difficult. You go back to the New Testament, the Apostle Paul, I believe, had a messenger of Satan following him everywhere. That's why you see him involved in things that today's Christianity would consider, well, you're not in the will of God because this definitely wouldn't happen. What am I talking about? Satan followed him everywhere, and he caused, Satan that is, riots, persecutions. Why? Because he was turning the present world, his present world system, upside down. We got people, I just shake my head and I'm going, choose your battles, friends. Don't waste your efforts on the small things that won't matter one bit for the cause of Christ. We got people, even Christians, upset because they have to wear masks. Hey, I don't like wearing masks. You put those N95 masks on, it's hard to breathe through them. I hate wearing a mask. But am I going to cause a ruckus on a plane? Actually, I think everyone should wear a mask on a plane, whether we're in a pandemic or not. I've caught more colds on a plane than anywhere else. They're infested tubes of germs. I was on a plane recently, and the flight attendant, when we walked in, gave us a sheet of disinfectant wipe about this big. About this big. Like that was going to disinfect anything that I was going to sit on, or the little table that folds down, or whatever. I don't want to get off on that, but I got people that want to make a stand and think they're doing it for the cause of Christ. If they cause a ruckus because of they feel like their rights have been violated because they don't like to be told what to do, especially about wearing a mask. Pick your battles, my friend. Believe me, more important things will come across your life than that you have to take a stand on for the cause of Christ. Yeah, I don't like certain things that are happening. But am I shocked or surprised that they are? No. I've been telling you it's only going to get worse for how many years now? And yet you act like you're surprised that these things are happening. Have you forgotten we're living in the last days? The last of the last days. Expect worse than what you're seeing, my friends. Where was I? Yeah. Not that Paul caused the riots or persecutions, but the message. The message was turning the world system upside down. You go to Acts 17. You don't have to go there, but I'm going to go there quickly. I believe it's Acts 17. Let me... Yes, that's when they're in Thessalonica. Verse 6. And when they found them not, they threw Jason and certain brethren unto the rulers of the city, crying, These have turned the world upside down, are come hither also. Whom Jason had received, and these all do contrary to the decrees of Caesar, saying that there is another king, one Jesus. And they troubled the people and the rulers of the city when they heard these things. You're upset about masks? Wait till they hear about Jesus. Nobody's going to turn the world upside down because of their viewpoints about a mask. Come on. I'm sounding like Joe Biden now. Come on, man. Get real. That only satisfies the flesh. Your pound of flesh, that is. Because you want to see what you believe your rights to be violated. Pick your fights. Pick better fights than that. I was talking to somebody who says, I'll be thrown in jail before I put on a mask. Really? Really? And I repeat, I hate them too. But what good would I be if they locked me up? Sure, I probably could preach in prison. But that's just to a very small populace of people compared to what's happening right now. Some of you need to get your egos in check. And anything that interferes in your participation for the cause of Christ has to be something that you avoid. Because the most important thing in your life should be how you participate in the cause of Christ. And I've said it many times, be wise as a serpent, but harmless as a dove. Harmless as a dove. It doesn't mean you become wimps for Jesus. It means that you understand who your enemy is, who your adversary is. We fight not against flesh and blood, but against the unseen evil that's out there, that's looking to set us up in any way it can to take us out of the playing field if we're doing anything for the cause of Christ. If you're all in for the cause of Christ, if you sold out for God, don't become discouraged when you are attacked. And don't fall for this nonsense that because of the attacks, because of the intense spiritual warfare that you're involved in, that might bring along tribulation with it, is because somehow you missed God. Don't believe that for 1 minute. If anything, it's probably the opposite. I'm being targeted. You're being targeted. Why? Because we're hitting the devil right on his bullseye. That's why Paul encouraged believers in his day, and even now, to stand strong in the Lord. That's the Ephesian message. Chapter 6. Verse 10 and 11 and 12 and 13. He's encouraging believers to stand strong in the Lord. Why? Because our struggle is not with blood and flesh. That's how it's originally read in the Greek, by the way. Not flesh and blood. But against two principalities, powers, the rulers of darkness in high places. But notice what Paul said in verse 12. The second word in verse 12. In some translations, it reads, our struggle, but in the King James it says, for we wrestle. We. Not just Paul. Here he was referring to any believer. For we wrestle. And by the way, that includes him in the struggle also. And he wrestled plenty. And don't expect anything less. You go to 1 Corinthians Hopefully you're just writing these verses down. I told you in the beginning of this message, I didn't know the direction this was going to take tonight. But 1 Corinthians 16, verse 9. What does Paul say there? For a great door and effectual is open unto me, and there are many adversaries. You look at Paul's life, every time a door was open in his ministry, he had many adversaries. I'm telling you tonight, that is a biblical principle that cannot be ignored. Don't you think for 1 minute, and don't let anyone convince you that there's not going to be a struggle. Do not ever think, just because Jesus called you to do something, it's going to be easy. You really think about it. I don't think there's any argument that Jesus did the will of God. Correct? What happened to him? By doing the will of God, he was crucified. You look at the apostles' life, you look at Paul's life, more than likely he was beheaded. So when it comes right down to it, it's not how many years we live, like how some people like to calculate it, but what we do with the life that we're giving, that's what matters. So what do we do when we find ourselves in the spiritual warfare struggle, which Paul calls the day of evil? Back to Ephesians. Verse 13, wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand. What Paul is telling us in this verse is to stand strong in the Lord and to stand firm. In other words, don't quit. Don't give up. We read it earlier. The Apostle Peter tells us to resist the devil. Standing firm in the faith. Peter should know something about standing firm in the midst of the day of evil. He's the one who denied Christ 3 times in that day. But Jesus prayed that his faith would not fail. Prior to that, what I'm saying to you tonight, as we close out this 15th year, and Sunday we begin our 16th year, don't fear, don't be afraid what life might bring to you from this day on. Easier said than done. At times, yeah, I'll even admit to that. But we have to remember, all these people that we read about in the scriptures overcame. It was Jesus that told us that he overcame the world. Let's just go one more verse. John chapter 3. No, chapter 16. I want to say 3:16, but because I go there so often, but it's chapter 16, verse 33. These things I have spoken unto you, that in me ye might have peace. That's where only true peace exists. In the world ye shall have tribulation. Remember that word tribulation, phlipsis in the Greek? What does it mean? A squeezing, a crushing. When you feel like the world is crushing in on you, putting the big squeeze on your life. In the world ye shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer, no courage. Be of good courage. Why? Because I, Jesus speaking, have overcome the world. The Greek is cosmos. He has overcome everything, not just this world, but anything in this universe and anywhere else that exists. His presence. What's the opposite of fear? Peace. In Christ we can have peace. And in Christ we can have the understanding that, yes, just like him and any other believer of God, there might be tribulation. More than likely there will. And it's going to feel like you're going to be squeezed to death, crushed by the circumstances, the afflictions, the trials. But out of Jesus' own lips, he said, be of good courage. I have overcome the world. I have overcome the world. And you go down to 17, chapter, verse 4. I have glorified thee on the earth. This is when Jesus prayed to his Father. I have glorified thee on the earth. I have finished. In the Greek is accomplished, completed. He ran the course that God the Father had him on for his purposes. I have finished the work which thou gavest me to do. And I'm here to tell you tonight, or to remind you, that whatever he started in you, he plans to finish. You just got to keep on believing and trusting that he's already overcome whatever you're facing, whatever you will face, whatever this world brings at you. He wants us to have courage. And courage is developed when you have trust and confidence in him, what his word says, and how you act on it. I want to go out this 15th year by reminding everyone, don't expect to get any easier, because it won't. It won't. Nevertheless, we have to stand firm, keep wearing our whole armor of God that he's provided for us, keep participating, keep delivering some black eyes to the devil and his minions for the cause of Christ. And just as Christ overcame the world, the Christ that's in us will also overcome the world and anything that it throws at us. He will make sure that we complete our course and that we will run it well if our focus and trust and confidence is in him. You got it? Hopefully you do. Most of this is just a reminder. To myself first, and to anyone that's listening. That we are in a fight and a struggle. But we are also overcomers. Christ in me has overcame the world. He doesn't plan to leave me behind. Be an overcomer. The day of evil is upon us, if you haven't noticed. But I will do what God's word instructed me to do, And that is to stand firm and not quit until he calls me home or comes to pick me up. Whatever he chooses, I will stay in the fight. And I pray that you also stay in the fight until this is all over and we enter into a different age. But until then, keep fighting the good fight of faith. I'll see you in my 16th year. Play the sound.